I think I didn't do anything wrong, just lived a little outside the lines. Besides, weekends don't really count, right? So when my husband served me legal papers in front of my parents, showing everyone my private texts, I was honestly shocked. I never thought things would go this far, just because of a few harmless messages. Before we dive deeper into the story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. The March family home buzzed with its usual Saturday morning energy, though something felt different in the air. Evadne March stood at the kitchen counter, her phone buzzing incessantly with notifications she quickly silenced before Thomas could notice. At 34, she'd perfected the art of managing multiple conversations while maintaining the facade of domestic bliss. "Morning, beautiful," Thomas said quietly, pouring coffee with the mechanical precision that had begun to irritate her. His IT consultant demeanor, always measured, always thinking, felt suffocating on weekends when she craved spontaneity. Evadne replied, thumbs dancing across her screen. Leo had sent another flirty message, and the thrill of their secret weekend communications made her feel alive in ways her marriage hadn't for years. After all, what Thomas didn't know couldn't hurt him, and weekends were practically a different universe from their mundane weekday routine. 7-year-old Sophie padded into the kitchen, unusually quiet. "Daddy, why don't you and Mummy talk anymore?" she asked with the devastating honesty only children possess. Thomas's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "We talk plenty, sweetheart. Mummy's just busy with work friends." Evadne shot him a sharp look. "Don't be dramatic, Thomas. I'm allowed to have friends." She turned to Sophie with exaggerated cheerfulness. "Daddy's just being silly. Why don't you go watch cartoons?" The doorbell interrupted the growing tension. Oliver March, Thomas's younger brother, stood on the doorstep with his characteristic knowing smirk. At 33, Oliver had always been suspicious of Evadne's motives, and his unexpected visits lately felt like surveillance missions. "Hope I'm not interrupting anything important," Oliver said, his eyes immediately drawn to Evadne's phone, which she'd hastily flipped face down. "Just family breakfast," Thomas replied, but his tone suggested relief at his brother's presence. Oliver settled into conversation about work and weekend plans, but his comments carried subtle barbs. "Trust is everything in relationships, isn't it? Once that's gone, what's left?" He looked directly at Evadne. "Good thing you two have such a solid foundation." Evadne felt her cheeks flush. "Of course we do. Some people just like to create drama where none exists." Her phone buzzed again, and she instinctively reached for it. "Popular morning," Thomas observed quietly. "Work emergencies on Saturday." "You know how it is," Evadne laughed, but the sound felt forced. "Insurance never sleeps." She caught Thomas's questioning look and felt a spike of defensive anger. "What's with the third degree? Since when do I need permission to answer messages?" "I didn't say you needed permission, I just wondered." "You wondered what, exactly?" Evadne's voice rose. "Are you keeping track of my phone usage now? That's not controlling at all." Later that evening, when Evadne called her mother Janice to vent, the older woman's response was predictably supportive. "Men get insecure as they age, honey. Thomas probably feels threatened by your social life. Don't let him make you feel guilty for having friends." Meanwhile, Diane March, Thomas's mother, had noticed the growing tension during recent family gatherings. Sophie's increasing withdrawal and Thomas's quiet resignation worried her, though she kept her concerns private. Something was shifting in her son's marriage, and the signs weren't encouraging. As the day wound down, Evadne found herself deleting a particularly flirtatious exchange with Leo when she heard Thomas's footsteps approaching their bedroom. Her heart raced, not from guilt, she told herself, but from annoyance at feeling monitored in her own home. "Everything okay?" Thomas asked, noticing her flustered expression. "Fine, just clearing storage space." She set the phone aside, but Thomas's eyes lingered on it. "Mind if I see?" Sophie wanted to look at those photos from last weekend. The request felt like a trap. Seriously? You need to check my phone now. What's next, tracking my location? Evadne grabbed the device protectively. This is insane, Thomas. I'm not doing anything wrong, and I won't be treated like a criminal in my own home. She stormed out, leaving Thomas standing alone in their bedroom, his suspicions crystallizing into something approaching certainty. Monday morning at the small insurance firm where Evadne worked felt like a sanctuary. Here, among colleagues who saw her as vivacious and underappreciated, she could reshape the narrative of her marriage into something more palatable. He's getting paranoid, Evadne confided to Erica Lynn over coffee. At 29, Erica was single, ambitious, and always ready to fuel office gossip. Thomas thinks he can monitor my every conversation. It's becoming emotionally abusive, honestly. Erica's eyes lit up with the thrill of drama. I've always said he doesn't deserve you. You're young, beautiful, successful. Why should you be trapped in some boring suburban prison? Life's too short. The validation felt intoxicating. Evadne found herself embellishing Thomas's perceived slights, painting him as controlling and neglectful. He barely talks to me anymore, just sits there judging. Meanwhile, I'm supposed to pretend I'm happy being ignored. You need someone who appreciates you, Erica agreed. Speaking of which, how's your friend Leo? Evadne's smile turned secretive. He's refreshing, funny, spontaneous, everything Thomas isn't. We just talk, you know. It's harmless. That afternoon, Leo Finch appeared at their usual cafe, all charm and easy confidence. At 31, he worked in sales and had perfected the art of making women feel special without making commitments. His attention felt like sunlight after months of Thomas's growing distance. Rough weekend? Leo asked, sliding into the booth across from her. Thomas is getting suspicious. Started asking about my phone, wanting to see messages. Evadne stirred her coffee anxiously. I'm basically single on weekends anyway. He barely acknowledges I exist. Leo's smile was understanding. Some people just don't know how to appreciate what they have. Their loss becomes someone else's gain. He reached across to squeeze her hand. You deserve better than walking on eggshells in your own home. The conversation drifted to their usual flirtation, Leo painting pictures of weekend getaways and spontaneous adventures that made Evadne's structured life feel suffocating by comparison. When Erica suggested they take a photo together, Evadne barely hesitated. What harm could one picture do? But that evening, as Evadne scrolled through social media, she realized Erica had tagged her in the cafe photo. Her stomach dropped when she saw that Evadne March had liked several of Erica's other posts, which meant Thomas's mother was definitely seeing her online activity. The next morning brought consequences. Evadne walked into her bedroom to find Thomas methodically searching through her purse, his face set in grim determination. What the hell are you doing? She demanded. Thomas looked up calmly. My mother saw some interesting photos online. Thought I should know what my wife does during her girls' nights. You have no right. I have every right to know if my wife is lying to me. Thomas's voice remained steady, but something fundamental had shifted in his demeanor. We need to talk, Evadne. Really talk. The Willow Cafe had always been neutral ground for March family gatherings, but this Sunday's brunch felt charged with unspoken tensions. Both families had assembled. Janice Greaves defending her daughter's right to friendships, Evadne March quietly observing, and Oliver making pointed comments about loyalty and trust. Evadne arrived determined to control the narrative. If Thomas wanted to make their private issues public, she'd ensure everyone understood who the real victim was. Thomas has been so distant lately, she announced to the table, cutting into her eggs Benedict with theatrical precision. I think he's having some kind of midlife crisis, getting paranoid about perfectly innocent friendships. Janice nodded sympathetically. Men often feel threatened when their wives have active social lives. It's insecurity, plain and simple. Or maybe, Oliver interjected quietly, Some wives give their husbands reasons to be concerned. The table fell silent. Evadne's fork clattered against her plate. "Excuse me." "Just saying, trust goes both ways. When someone starts acting secretive, deleting messages, staying out late—" Oliver shrugged. "Natural to wonder what's being hidden." "I'm not hiding anything." Evadne's voice carried across the cafe, drawing stares from other diners. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. Being treated like a criminal for having friends. Maybe if my husband paid half as much attention to me as he does to his computer, I wouldn't need to find conversation elsewhere." Thomas sat silently through her performance, his calm demeanor somehow more unnerving than anger would have been. Sophie picked at her pancakes, clearly distressed by the adult tension she couldn't fully understand. "Mommy, why are you and Daddy fighting?" Sophie whispered. "We're not fighting, sweetheart," Evadne said, softening her voice. "Daddy's just being silly about Mommy having friends. Sometimes grown-ups get confused about things." Diane March had heard enough. "Thomas isn't confused about anything. He's trying to protect his family." "Protect us from what?" Evadne laughed bitterly. "From me having a social life? From not being completely isolated and dependent?" The family divided along predictable lines, Janice and Erica, who'd joined them, supporting Ivana's right to independence, while Diane and Oliver grew increasingly protective of Thomas. Sophie withdrew further, sensing the adult world fracturing around her. Thomas finally spoke, his voice cutting through the escalating argument. "Would anyone like to see the real story?" He reached into his jacket and pulled out a manila folder, setting it calmly on the table between the coffee cups and half-eaten meals. Evadne felt her blood freeze. "What is that?" "Evidence," Thomas replied simply. "Documentation of what's actually been happening in our marriage." The cafe seemed to hold its breath. Evadne tried to laugh, but the sound came out strangled. "You're being ridiculous. There's nothing to document because nothing's happening." Thomas's hand rested on the folder, but he didn't open it. Yet. "We'll see." That evening, the March family home felt like a pressure cooker ready to explode. Sophie had retreated to her room after dinner, sensing the adult storm brewing downstairs. Diane had stayed after brunch, her maternal instincts fully activated in protection of her son. Evadne paced the living room, her mind racing through possible explanations and damage control strategies. Whatever Thomas thought he had, she could spin it. She'd been handling situations like this for months. It was all about confidence and maintaining the offensive. "I'm calling a family meeting," she announced, as if taking charge could somehow restore her control over the situation. "This has gone far enough. Thomas is trying to destroy my reputation over some friendly text messages, and I won't stand for it." "Friendly messages," Oliver repeated flatly. "Is that what we're calling them?" "Yes, that's what I'm calling them because that's what they are." Evadne's voice rose with defensive anger. "I have friends. I text with people. I'm sorry if that threatens Thomas's need to control every aspect of my life, but I'm not going to become some isolated housewife just to make him feel secure." Thomas entered the room carrying his laptop and the folder from brunch. His calm demeanor had become almost eerie in its steadiness. "I've spoken with a lawyer, Evadne." The words hit like a physical blow. "You what?" "I've been documenting everything for weeks. The late-night messages, the deleted conversations, the lies about where you've been and who you've been with." Thomas set his laptop on the coffee table. "Tomorrow I'm going to present everything to both our families. All of it." Evadne felt panic rising in her chest. "You can't be serious. You're going to destroy our family over some text messages. Thomas, this is insane. I'm not doing anything wrong." "Then you have nothing to worry about." That night, alone in their guest room, Thomas had moved out of their bedroom weeks ago. Evadne frantically texted Leo. "Emergency. He knows something. What should I do?" The message showed as delivered, then read, but no response came. She tried calling, straight to voicemail. Hours passed, still nothing. As dawn broke, Evadne realized with growing horror that Leo Finch, charming, understanding Leo, who'd made her feel so special and justified, had vanished the moment things became complicated. The law office of Green and Hayes felt sterile and final, like a medical facility where terminal diagnoses were delivered. Thomas sat across from attorney Patricia Hayes, reviewing documents that would formalize the end of his marriage and, more importantly, protect his daughter's future. "The evidence is comprehensive," Attorney Hayes noted, flipping through printed screenshots, bank statements, and recorded conversations. "Your wife's pattern of deception, financial irregularities, and admission of extramarital involvement creates a strong case for both dissolution and primary custody." Thomas nodded, feeling oddly detached from the legal terminology that was dismantling his life. "I just want Sophie protected, and I want the truth to finally come out." 2 hours later, Thomas returned home with legal documents and a court officer. Both families had assembled at his request, Janice still skeptical, Diane quietly supportive, Oliver protective, and Sophie confused by the formal atmosphere that had invaded their living room. Evadne sat rigidly on the couch, her face a mask of defiant composure. "This is ridiculous, Thomas. You're traumatizing our daughter over your paranoid fantasies." "Sophie, go to your room, please," Thomas said gently. "The adults need to talk." As their daughter reluctantly climbed the stairs, Thomas opened his laptop and began displaying evidence. Screenshots of text conversations filled the screen. Messages between Evadne and Leo that left no doubt about the nature of their relationship. "These are taken out of context," Evadne protested, but her voice lacked conviction. "Private conversations twisted to look like something they're not." Thomas clicked to the next screen. Bank statements showing unexplained withdrawals, charges at restaurants and hotels, on days when Evadne claimed to be working late or having girls' nights. Janice Greaves stared at the evidence in growing shock. "Evadne, what is this?" "It's Thomas destroying our family because he can't handle me having friends." But even as she said it, Evadne could see her mother's expression changing, the blind support wavering. The final blow came when Thomas played audio recordings, conversations between Evadne and Erica, where she explicitly discussed her affair, laughed about deceiving Thomas, and joked that weekends don't count anyway. The room fell silent except for the sound of Evadne March crying quietly. "I've been served with divorce papers," Thomas announced, his voice steady despite the magnitude of the moment. "I'm seeking primary custody of Sophie and appropriate financial protections. The court date is set for next month." Evadne looked around the room desperately, seeking allies, but found only shocked faces and disappointed stares. Even Janice couldn't meet her daughter's eyes. In desperation, she grabbed her phone to call Leo, to prove that someone understood her side of the story. The call went straight to a disconnected number message. Leo Finch had blocked her completely. Family court judge Rebecca Martinez had seen countless divorce cases, but the March proceedings stood out for their clear documentation and the respondents' continued attempts at manipulation, even under oath. "Mrs. March," Judge Martinez said sternly, "your testimony that these were emotional support conversations is contradicted by your own recorded statements. The evidence shows a pattern of deception, financial impropriety, and deliberate undermining of your marriage." Evadne sat with her hastily retained attorney, watching her carefully constructed world collapse in real time. "Your Honor, I was emotionally abandoned in my marriage. I sought connection where I could find it. That doesn't make me an unfit mother." "The court is not questioning your capacity for motherhood, Mrs. March. However, your documented behavior shows a concerning pattern of deception and poor judgment that affects the stability of the family environment." Thomas sat quietly as the judge awarded him primary custody, with Evadne receiving supervised visitation rights until she completed counseling. The financial settlement reflected her documented misuse of family resources and Thomas's role as the stable parent. Outside the courthouse, the two families faced each other on the steps. Janice Greaves looked aged by the proceedings, her faith in her daughter shattered by undeniable evidence. "I don't understand how it came to this," she said quietly to Thomas. "I'm sorry, I should have listened." Evadne March held Sophie's hand as they walked toward Thomas's car. The little girl had spent the court recess drawing pictures. One showed her and Daddy in a house with a big garden, while Mummy was a small figure standing far away. Oliver clapped his brother's shoulder. "You did the right thing. Sophie will understand someday that you protected her." Evadne stood alone on the courthouse steps, watching her former family walk away. The harmless weekend texts, the innocent friendships, the justified emotional affair, all of it had led to this moment of complete isolation. Her phone buzzed with a notification. Her insurance firm was requesting a meeting about inappropriate workplace conduct. Apparently, the family drama had reached her professional life through office gossip and social media evidence. As she walked to her car, Evadne finally understood what Thomas had tried to tell her months ago. Actions have consequences, and weekends definitely count. The perfect life she'd thought she deserved had been destroyed by her own choices, documented in her own words, witnessed by her own behavior. There was no one left to blame, no narrative left to spin, no weekend escape clause to invoke. She was finally, completely alone with the truth. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.